The Denver Broncos get some great news before Pittsburgh Steelers come to town on Sunday for what is shaping up to be a must-win game for the Denver Broncos. We get the Pittsburgh Steelers throwing out more bulletin board material on a player. You don't even want to mention his name, get his name out your mouth. And it's Friday. We all made it. Before we dive in, what'd y'all wear to work today? It's Orange Friday. When I moved from Denver a couple of years ago, the thing I miss the most now, other than the sun and the mountain views and just like the vibes and everything, gosh, I miss home, is Orange Friday. Like everybody in my school district just wore orange. So I hope somebody was repping a Bo Nix jersey at work. Let me know in the comments. I was presenting at a school district, so I had to wear their polo, but I snuck in the Broncos socks and I wore those Broncos Pegasus, and it was pretty fly. So let's dive into the great news that the Broncos got diving in to our game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming off a loss to the Seattle Seahawks. So the biggest awesome piece of good news is we know that we are facing a tough defense. Now, I will say, I think this defense, actually, we're going to have a chance to scheme for it. And while they have more talent, the fact that Sean Payton knows what to expect is really, really in our favor. But to me, the reason I didn't make a prediction about this game until I got this news is that if we were facing that defensive front without Garett Bolles, without Luke Wattenberg, that was going to be a very, very tough task, knowing that we got to establish the run immediately and we got to target TJ Watt. And so the great news is that Garett Bolles and Luke Wattenberg are expected to play on Sunday, which is an absolute game changer in a game that I think is very winnable, and I'm now calling a win. I'm going to share some other news on why I think that is a win. The other reason that we got great news is I think Josh Reynolds being back, he did a great job creating separation. He was the only person to run those slant routes, which I think are going to be crucial. The one piece of negative news might actually be a blessing in disguise, and that is Vele, a rookie 7th-round pick out of Utah, who actually had the most yards of separation of any Broncos receiver on Sunday, did not practice with a rib injury. As a rookie coming in and missing a whole week of practice, I'd be very surprised to see him on Sunday. But knowing Sean loves him, you could always see rib injuries could heal quick, and he's there. But I think the blessing in disguise here could be, is this going to force us to get Mims more involved? Is this going to force us to get Troy Franklin actually suited up and playing? And so I think as we need Bo to have more explosive playmakers, not just possession receivers, could this be a blessing in disguise as we're going to have to move the ball around more? Other great pieces of news that I think we got was time and time again this entire week, we heard the coaches encouraged by the loss because we were in a one-score game in the toughest place in the league to play, and we did not play well. And that's that. So basically, like, we play a C- game and are still in it. And I think you heard that from all of the coaches, and all the coaches being like, nobody had a good game, especially us coaches. Peyton said that, Vance Joseph said that, and Joe Lombardi said that. So he was asking, like, why are you encouraged? You guys lost to the Seahawks and you didn't move the ball and you couldn't get the run going. Nothing good on offense happened. And he's like, I'm encouraged because how bad we played and how much better we can play. And so I think that's awesome. And again, just like the talk we heard all offseason, a lot of people were commenting, hey, Ben, I think you hyped this team up too much. I didn't hype anything up. I just simply told you what Sean Payton said, and that hyped me up. Sean Payton said he kept middle fingers for people who said we were going to win less than 7 games. He went out and leaked to a reporter that we're going to be good and that we're young and hungry. And so it's these coaches, their encouragement and their ability to be like, hey, we have a lot left in the tank. We almost win a game in a tough place to play. Rookies never win their first start, and we should have had we just rolled out a B game in that, and we didn't. Hearing here, like, what's going to be the difference? Like, what is going to actually get this offensive line blocking for the run? Because as easy as it is to throw our running backs under the bus for not making dudes miss, we know the holes just weren't there, and when they were, they hit the holes pretty well. And Quinn Meinerz, who we just gave the bag to, was very self-critical and said he didn't play a good game. And in reflecting on that, awesome news here from Lombardi saying that because he's so good, sometimes he's like too aggressive and gets over his skis, and that he's going to learn from that and move on. And hearing Quinn Meinerz be self-reflective and say, like, hey, all the technique and stuff I've been working on all offseason, I didn't actually execute any of that in this game. And man, if he can do that, and Garett Bolles can be healthy, then we are going to win this game, because that Pittsburgh offense scares me this much, like absolute zero on that. Other reason I think I'm encouraged is just seeing how little yards after the catch our receivers have, and knowing that their backs are against the wall. And without a doubt, this week they were called to the carpet and said, hey, you guys got to help out your rookie quarterback that only 2 teams in the entire league had less than 3 yards after the catch, yards after catch, and we had 2.6. So us and the Tennessee Titans, that's just not a group you want to see looped in with this, especially when we are so talent rich that we cut 3 wide receivers who are now playing on other teams on Sundays. And so why did we let all those dudes go if we got the horses in the stable? And so I'm expecting them to step up. We also did get good news that Courtland Sutton is an elite receiver and he's joining elite company. And anytime you see his name mentioned with Jefferson, Evans, Brown, and Ayuk, that's a great thing. We know the San Francisco 49ers were willing to move on from Ayuk if they got Courtland Sutton. So obviously one of the smartest minds in football, and Shanahan thinks he's elite, and now we have the yards to prove that he is. And so let's get him the ball. We heard that the game plan for Bo Nix was very simplified, and even Marvin Mims wasn't upset about the number of snaps he was in on and said, well, that's because we're simplifying it for him, and those packages haven't been rolled out yet. And so we're just trusting this week that another week into it, he's at home, he's more comfortable, he's learned from mistakes that he made, and now that ball is going to move. So the last piece of fantastic news for me is that Steelers, you done messed up on this one. Mike Tomlin went out of his way to praise Patrick Surtain and say that he is the best corner in the league. I feel like anytime I say that, it's like a biased take. And we saw Sauce Gardner give up on the Jets on Monday Night Football and literally not play on certain plays and take a knee when he didn't need to. And Pat Surtain is the best football player, or the best corner in football, and all of your favorite corners say that he's the best corner in football. Mike Tomlin came out and said he is the best in the league at this position. And listen to what the receiver who he's going to be facing on Sunday came out and said about him. And just like the level of smugness and disrespect here has me hyped up, because, man, mess around and find out, Pickens, because you are not a fraction of the receiver of who he locked down last week. We're going to take a look at that in a second here. But listen to what he says as he's asked about facing Patrick Surtain this week.
Just be myself, to be honest. I went against Pat Surtain in college, so a lot of this stuff isn't new for me.
What do you remember about him in college?
He's just a good player. It's like a lot of other players in here. They're good players. I'm a good player. There's a lot of good players around the league.
He's just a good player. There's a lot of good players in the NFL. I played against him in college, is what he said. So just like the level of smugness there, he's not a good player. He is a great player, and he's actually like your favorite player's favorite player, like Von Miller after the Bills win, rocking a Pat Surtain shirt. This is not a homer take. He is elite, and he is going to take that as drastically disrespectful. You watch Pat Surtain against DK Metcalf, who, frankly, I would take DK Metcalf with one hand over I would take Pickens. Like, I think Pickens is like probably most famous for this moment, where literally his receiver or his running back right here, like, hey, you make one man miss, you make one block, you throw any effort in, and you're in the end zone, and the guy can't even bother to be moved. So I feel very good because he disrespected him and said he's a good player, but I'm a good player. There's a lot of good players in the league. Well, we will find out on Sunday, because I don't think Fields is going to be able to get him the ball, first of all, and secondly, Surtain is going to take that very personally, and I think that's great news. We just look here, DK Metcalf, who has more talent in his left finger than Pickens has in his whole body. Just looking here at perfect coverage where he is isolated. He is on an island. He's here at the bottom of your screen, and just perfectly played there. And time again, we saw that. We saw a couple pretty bogus pass interference calls against him, which I don't think he gets again at home. And really, if it's other than those penalties, you can't say a bad thing about Pat Surtain. And perfect coverage there against one of the best receivers in the league and a quarterback who can throw a lot better than your quarterback. And so I think you picked on the wrong guy. You called an elite player good. I think another great piece of good news here is we just see how different teams are managing rookie quarterbacks. And I think as frustrating as it was to lose a winnable game, you could make the argument that had Stidham started that whole game, we probably would have won it. And I think the ceiling on Bo Nix is way higher, and I think he's like just a slight notch behind Stidham at this point in his career with a way higher ceiling, and so we're developing him now, so he hits that. But what I love is that, like, Sean Payton chose a lane and he went with it. He's not trying to be on both sides of the line at the same time. We know that's impossible be hot or cold. Don't be lukewarm. We'll spit you out of our mouth, right? And just seeing that's exactly what the Patriots are trying to do right now. Like, they just beat the Bengals. You shouldn't be swapping reps here, splitting reps between Meyer or Jacoby Brissett and Drake May. Pick one or the other, or like tank or be good. Like, you choose what you're doing. But I think how the Broncos are doing this is awesome. And Chase Daniel's coming out and saying this is eye-opening and rare. Once the season starts, you should not be splitting reps. And so I major props to Sean Payton for finding your quarterback and going all in with him. Getting more good news, just hearing Vance Joseph today talk about how much Riley Moss flashed, and I think we really look past how good Lockett really is, and that's probably one of the best receivers he'll go up against all year. And we saw him make tackles on Kenneth Walker in the backfield. One of the best open field tackles I've seen in a long time was Riley Moss on one of the shiftiest dudes ever in Kenneth Walker. And so if we found a guy to pair with Patrick Surtain, knowing Jaquan has that slot position locked down, our secondary is nasty. And we already know what Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning and Nick Benito and Jonah Ellis are going to do. And so our defense is going to continue what it did last week, which was start off hot, keep us in games. And it is really, there's a ton to be excited about and a ton to believe in. I'm 2 for 2 this week. Here we go. I got to be better. I'll watch the tape.